Chapter 4. Where's the chamber pot? The awkwardness did not at all dissipate for a solid several hours. They'd brought me a couple of apples and a glass of water. It felt so weird to actually eat again, as it had been at least several months. The princesses had apparently caught on to my discomfort, and they, as well as the captain, had excused themselves to lessen the huge amount of people in the room. So now it's me and 5 others, and I was only sure of the gender of one of them. Unless the gender line can be blurred with this race, in that case I have no earthly clue. I rubbed the side of my head for a moment and tried to get an image of the room with the 4th sight spell, only for the entire room to gasp. I guess me using magic with a broken horn is just too mind-boggling for them. Great. Just great. I heave a sigh at this, and I hear a slight noise that sounds inquisitive. I guess. But really, how can I know? These ponies are not people as I know them. They're not even centaurs as I know them, or anything as I know them. Someone's walking towards me with a slight clinking noise, and I tense up before forcing myself to relax. It's not an assassin, it's a guard. Like I could tell the difference in this species. Still, I was told I would be safe. Yeah, told. Oh no. So is time for a fight yet? You're looking antsy. Is there anything we should know about? A male voice asks, and I think fast. Before my horn was broken, I was using a spell to see, and now I can't use magic. I began, and let it trail off as the implications actually sink in on me as well. Has there ever been a time I haven't used magic? Maybe when I was... No. I was using it as a small child, too, just without direction. What is it? The nurse asks, another walks off for God knows what reason. I just realized this is the first time I've ever been truly without magic. I've always used it before for dozens of things at once. I say, trying not to give the obviously armed individuals too much information or they may feel opportunistic. I'll feel safe when I'm in a position of power, thank you very much. Oh, perhaps we can help then. What kind of things do you usually do with magic? Another new voice asks, and since there was no clinking, I assume it's the doctor this time. Well, I used it to stop bleeding, to keep warm, to see. Sometimes also to keep my heart beating, and... I began to list off, and there's a clanging sound that caused me to jump a little. What was that? I asked before it actually comes to me. Either someone dropped something, or one of the god's legs just collapsed from under them. Either way. Funny, actually. It wasn't distressing that these were supposed to be the ones helping me, and they're so squeamish. Oh dear. Wait, I know. Would you like for me to bring in the CD player for you? A male voice, who I now assume is the doctor, asks, and if my eyes were open, I would blink. What player? I ask, completely confused by the request. There's a scraping noise, and I assume whatever metal that fell on the floor had been picked up, whether it's encasing someone's rear or not. A CD player is short for compact disc player. It's a machine that will play whatever sounds have been put on the disc. It's normally used to record music so it can be played later without tiring out or bothering the artist. One of them, I think the guard, explains, and my eyes sockets open as I try to stare at him. Then I remember myself and close them. I think fast. Doesn't that take profit away from the artist? I ask, trying to make sense of this. I've seen minstrels perform and have coins thrown into their hats or buckets or whatever. It's how they make a living, and the good ones can rent theaters, charge a sum to enter, and truly hit the big time. No, the artist usually sells the disc. Furthermore, it works like advertisements to live shows as well. One of them explains to me, and I nod. I wonder if the disc is sharp enough to cut me. Well, that sounds amazing. I'd love to listen to this CD player. I say, deliberately overstressing the parts of the word to make myself seem more ignorant. The slight chuckle at this as one of them walks off. It would be nice to know which one. Before I'm out of earshot, any preferences to music? The mayor shouts, and I don't even need to think. Strings! Violins and like have always been wonderful. I call towards the sound of her voice, and I guess she nods. That's the trouble with being blind, is that more than half the things you say are with how you move. I hear her leave further, and when she's out of earshot, I just have to ask, does she often nod towards the blind? I ask, and there's a snort. Sorry, you just cared a little too well. It's not like she's used to having the patient's problem being shoved in her face, so when it isn't, she hardly notices. It's why she's just a nurse. Other than that, though, she's an excellent caretaker, and is both punctual and attentive. Good traits to have. The one I assume the doctor is says, and I nod. Also, you mentioned using magic for almost everything you do. Does that mean you'd prefer it if we focused on repairing the horn? He asks, and I nod eagerly. Yes, magic, please. I need it, I want it, I love it. I sound like those fools who beg as they get grown out of an opium den. Is there any real way to direct a regeneration spell? Don't they just work on anything at once? The one that I assumed was a guard because he clinked when he walked past the doctor. Again, I must assume there was a nod or something. Not generally, no. You can't direct such a spell, but you can contain it to a specific part of the body, so it's exclusively worked on as if it were the only injury. It's one of the spell events that Starswirl the Bearded is accredited, and in my opinion, his underappreciated masterpiece. The doctor explains, and I have to admit, it's brilliant. Granted, I haven't studied healing, but it sounds smart, I think. I wish I'd paid more attention to the village sage as a child. There's the sound of hurried footsteps, and I think the nurse is returning with the CD player thing. Sorry, I didn't send you rushing all over the place, did I? I ask her more just to be polite than any real reason. She doesn't answer, and I'm sick of guessing what movements they're making. Is that a yes? No? Maybe so? Sorry, but if you'll remember, I'm blind. I say after a few silent moments. Also, on the topic of my being blind, could I get some bandages wrapped on my empty eyes? I open them unstartled, and occasionally something gets inside. I quickly request when the thought to ask occurs to me. I don't want another bee incident. Granted, with eyes this size, I might have to worry about bats instead. Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't any trouble to get this, and I brought Octavia's Muse. It's rather popular and very well done compilation piece with a solid hour of amazing cello work. She explains, and I nod. It does sound rather nice. Not to mention she's gorgeous to boot, with the most amazing voice and pose. The guard said, and I slowly turned my head to him with a raised eyebrow. Finally, I may be able to get some non-violent entertainment. For once, in 20 years. You do realize until you actually speak with her that you're not liable to go anywhere with this relationship, and before you ask, I can tell you haven't actually spoken because you only mentioned the sound of her voice, not any personality traits or interests. I say, laying out as much bait as thickly as I can. Oh please, oh please, oh please, take the bait. Well, what would you know about these things? You're a fool, he protests, and I grin widely. He took the bait. There's no way you could have. My grin turns into a massive teeth-filled smile. No. He sounds a little panicked, and I nod. No way in Tartarus or could have full of possibly. He starts, and I cut him off with a throaty chuckle. I push through my headache and quickly cast a foresight spell, and I am not disappointed. The guard in front of me, who is a stark white Pegasus in gold armor with a black mane, is staring at me in absolute shock, looking like his jaw is about to unhinge and fall away. Further in the distance, another guard, this one in black armor, has turned to face him and is staring at me with a huge grin. He's got a dark grey coat, and I can't see his mane, but his tail is stark white. The one I've been guessing is the doctor is a normal horse with a brown coat and with white spots, and is wearing a long white coat and has what looks like a flat disc on a hose that splits into two metal sticks that come together again with black buds on the same material as the hose. It looks like it may be used for listening to things. One nurse had hot pink hair and a lime green fur, which is really painful to me. Alright, it's mostly painful to think about because I didn't see it per se, and the other's more sedate, with a light yellow body and black hair. The both of them have variations of red across their flanks, with the symbol which also have on the hats they wear. They've also gone completely bug-eyed, and the doctor's eyes are crossed. That spell hurt to cast, but the looks on your faces are well worth it, I say, stretching my legs a little and getting the feel for them. I wonder how long it will take for them to recover from this revelation. Still, I suppose being the form of a small child is a lot of room for fun, provided that no one gets back at me by pulling the age card. Time creeps by, but I'm not sure how much. I'm fairly certain it's been only several minutes and no one has said a thing. You know, the silence is getting a little on the creepy side, I comment, and the doctor clears his voice. Sorry, it's just the implications that you've been with a mare, he says slowly and cautiously. Well, what happened is that I found on a crystal which let me cast a form shift spell, so I turned myself into a true stallion and sampled the finer sides of adult life, I say with complete honesty. That had been possibly the best week of my life. Good food, good company, good fun, bad fun, naughty fun, sexy fun, and my personal favorite, scandalous fun. You didn't, the guard from the door states, and I'd wager he's probably eagerly leaning in. I most certainly did. I must say that whiskey is quite the treat, and while amusing at first, opium leaves something to be desired. But the real gem of that week before the crystal lost its power, it was Velvet. Oh, now, she was a gem, I say in a deeper tone, remembering that dark-skinned beauty. I love remembering this week, and sharing it is likely to make an amazing splash, and I must admit, I'm morbidly curious as to how this will turn out. No, the doctor states, and my smile widens. Oh, yes, she was a beauty. The deepest brown eyes, the most intriguing spicy scent that quilled its way into my mind. She moved with a grace that no cat could match, and had an almost whisper-like breathy voice, I continue, and it sounds like the near guard is mulling the image over in his mind and liking it, if the soft chuckling is any indication. Please tell me you didn't sleep with her, the doctor asks, and I smile inside as I stretch my wings out and hold them there to test their feel. Hey, I can multitask, thank you very much. That and more. It started with a few drinks, then a lovely conversation that ended up being all of nothing. Finally, she invited me into her home, and I used all of my skill magic to give her a deep muscle massage that had her moaning and begging for more. I continue, still being fully truthful, just leaving out details like my sneaking past her father's guards, and the fact that both of us being nude meant a lot more at the time. Oh dear Celestia, the doctor exclaims in a shaking voice. And then I learned just how amazingly flexible she was. It was like her spine was made of rope rather than bone, and those sounds she made, those little whimpers and pleads for more, I continue, and there's a choking sound from the doctor as the guards chuckle slightly. I must report this, the doctor declares, and rushes off. You know, I didn't take him for a tattletale, I remark as the hoof falls vanish into the distance. I'd give so much to be a fly on the wall when he makes his report. With good reason, what were you thinking? One of the nurses demands, and I think it's the pink and green one. That it was the most amazing night of my life, and I'd give anything to be with her again, I say calmly, and fold my wings up with a sigh. I hear some slight popping noises as I feel the wing joints pop into place. But what if she got pregnant? You're too young to be raising foals of your own, the other nurse asks, and I sigh again. Probably, but I'd love to have a family again. I say softly, and my good mood dies as my mind returns to the memory of finding my family's remains. I sigh for a third time, this time in longing. So your advice is? The god asks me again, and I turn to him and smile. Take it slow. Different genders move at different paces, so move at her speed. Keep her comfortable with you and slowly move in. If you can scratch one night into an eternity, you've won, I say, and he chuckles a little to himself. I suddenly feel a large amount of magic being used nearby, and I turn my head quickly to face the threat. Not that it will make any difference, as I can't see! Who is it? I ask pleasantly, the memories of Velvet having put me in a much better mood. If I ever find myself back on my former world, I really do have to go back to the Three Falls port and find out what happened after her father chased me out. It's me. I've been told that there has been some rather shocking behavior in here. The alicorn I've presumed to be Celestia states, and I smile at this. Let's see if I can get a reaction. Well, I was just sharing stories of one of the few times in my life where I wasn't being attacked or hunted, and apparently what I did shocked the good doctor. Actually, it seems everything I do is rather shocking, no matter what the story I share. If I share a more unpleasant one, then there is gagging and disgust. But if I share one of my few pleasant memories, then what I did was immoral. All I did was spend a peaceful time in a portage without having to hurt anything. I found joy, I found good companionship, I found fun, I found love, and apparently that's wrong. I was under the impression that you intend for things to be pleasant for me, yet simultaneously every pony around me is shocked when I share a pleasant memory. It's terribly confusing. I explain at length, mentally chanting "take the bait" over and over again. Maybe next time. Her voice echoes in my mind, and my eyes snap open again as I try and find to stare at her. She can hear my thoughts? Oh no. If you're wondering, I can't hear your thoughts unless you project them like your little the bait chant. I hear in my mind, followed by a touch of laughter. Well, damn it. What am I going to do with you? She asks audibly, like a disappointed mother. Like she doesn't know. Well, most tend to hire assassins, but you're very powerful yourself and not a figurehead leader, so most likely murder, I say calmly, already ready to run. She seems to like the more direct type, so if I dodge the initial blast and get out a window, I can hide while taunting her with my thoughts. That's not how things are dealt with in Equestria, she tells me sternly, and I raise an eyebrow. So, there are no assassin guilds at all around here? Bizarre, I reply, and again I feel quite a few pairs of eyes on me. What? I was declared an impossible mark by 3 separate guilds. I wanted to make it 4, I say a little petulantly. And how did you manage that? Celestia asked me in an honestly curious tone. Well, beating half the assassins in a guild got me the first 2, and breaking into their stronghold and beating the guildmaster to an inch of death got me the 3rd. Those ones were annoying, and they just left tramps all the time. The first one used close-range weapons like knives, the second one used long-range ones like bows, and all 3 were more than a little poison-happy. I explain, rubbing my neck where those jackasses kept trying to get me to cut my own head off by walking into the near-invisible razor wire. Unpleasant memories? Celestia asks, sounding concerned. I shrugged ruefully. Unpleasant defines practically all of my memories, and now one of my good ones is scared some pony as well. I seem to just be an all-around horrifying little pony, don't I? I ask, and I'd glance around the room slyly if I could, but my lack of eyesight ruins my ability to do so. You're not horrifying. It's what happened to you that's horrifying. Now, what is this about you having a lover named Velvet somewhere? She asks, and I feel her asking to be let in strange. I let it happen, but I tense up my legs so I can bolt. There's a feather-light touch on my find, and a tittering sound before she pulls away. This has given me a little time to think. Well, to be honest, she's convinced that I'm a muscle-bound pirate named Adonis, and when I leapt out the window to escape her father's wrath, I caught an arrow in the back of my head. Obviously I survived, but she saw it, so there's that bridge burnt. I really would love to see her again, but I did poke my head in nearly half a year later, and it was clear she wasn't pregnant in any capacity, so I left a rose and a saucy little letter addressed from the afterlife, and that was that. I explained, remembering climbing up the side of the house, the body she loved long gone, and only the face of a wanted man remaining, as I slip in the window and lay them down on her dresser before vanishing into the night as she opens the door. Granted, it was probably a good thing that the father caught me. The crystal I was using to transform broke shortly after, and she wouldn't be able to recognize me. I finish and sigh heavily. I want to go back so much. And what happened then? One of the nurses asked this time. I think it's the brightly colored one. I sigh again. I've been doing that a lot today. I really should stop. I spent most of my life since then studying ways to enchant crystals, hoping beyond hope to figure out how to change again and return to her. I learned a lot, but not what I wanted to. I sigh again. I really need to stop that. I also really need to stop reacting. If I can find my way here, then so can my enemies. And that leads me to the thought of the guards. If this place is completely peaceful, why would they be needed? There's a sob from one of the nurses. Wait, make that both of them. If there's a need for guards, then it's likely that there's a need for an army as well. If they need an army, then there's likely enemies to the country I'm in. If there's an enemy to the country, then it's likely focused on the ruling body. In other words, the alicorns, which now include me. So I'm not paranoid. Good to know. Now, what do I have to prepare for? And now a very large pony is hugging me. Seeing as she's many times larger than other ponies, I must assume it's Celestia. Then I feel gurgling in my intestines. Oh dear. Thank you, but heating again has started a certain process up again. I begin, and she breaks the hug and backs up a little. Yeah, this is awkward, but where's the chamber pot? You mean the toilet? The near guard asks, and an eyebrow goes up. The what? I ask, and I can hear Celestia tittering as I'm paused as the rest of the room is staring at me incredulously. It's a type of chamber pot that's much cleaner, Celestia says, and I nod. I'll show you where it is. After all, I'm your aunt now, little one, she says, and my mind goes blank for a moment, causing me to overbalance and fall sideways and nearly off the bed before a spell catches me. So what's this about now? Someone asks. I don't know who, I can't figure out who. My mind has still checked out without leaving contact information. Well, aside from the kinship between all alicorns, Luna has decided to take it a step further. She's decided to mother him and is rather excited about it, Celestia explains, and my mind goes from clogged and unmoving to cluttered and confused. How could she be my mother when I'm a century and a half old? What the hell do you mean by adoption? I still really need to use the chamber pot or duck behind a tree. Excited? How? Is this another assassination attempt? Why am I panicking so easily? What the hell is going on? All screams through my head without any filtration, and Celestia's grip on the magic flickers a touch. Princess! The whole room, minus myself, exclaim. It's alright. He was rather confused and began projecting assaults outward in a very chaotic manner, and it struck me unexpectedly. No harm done. Now, if you'll excuse us, she says, and there's a slight pinch as I assume the needle is taken out of my arm. I haven't even noticed it was in there this time. Oh look, my mind is resetting. He really needs to go, she tells him, and I'm floating through the air and following her as she walks out.